Excellent. All right, everybody. It is 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and as always, we're going to start our call right on time. So right now, I'm going to have my colleague Brian put everybody on mute, but when the time comes for questions and comments, I'll tell you how to request unmuting so that we can hear your questions and comments. For those of you who don't know, my name is Woboy, and I am one of 2 citizen empowerment coordinators at American Promise, and I want to welcome you to the National Citizen Leadership Call for November. And this is a call that happens on the second Saturday of every month. And I want to thank all of you who have taken the time out of your busy weekends to join us, or maybe you're listening to us on the recording. Either way, you're stepping up to save our democracy, so thank you. And I also want to give a special shout out on this Veterans Day to the men and women who have served and are currently serving in our armed forces. Thank you all so much for your service to our country. And today we are so honored to have an incredible guest speaker with us today, Senator Nina Turner, former state senator of Ohio, president of Our Revolution, and member of the American Promise Advisory Council. She's an excellent orator, a strong champion of the 28th Amendment, and we're so excited to hear from her. And after we hear from Senator Turner, we're going to hear a grassroots victory and then discuss this month's action, which is focused on garnering support for the American Promise Candidate Pledge. We've been so inspired to see people stepping up all across the country to start new American Promise Associations, or APAs. Since the call last month, a phenomenal group of citizen leaders have come together in Port Clinton, Ohio, to launch the newest APA. And there are 3 more APAs scheduled to launch later this month in Narberth, Pennsylvania, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis. And we're in the process of launching groups in Brunswick, Maine, and Wilmington, Delaware. And I know there's going to be even more to announce in the coming weeks, so keep up the good work. And by the end of this month, we'll have a grand total of 18 APAs this year. So thank you all so much for stepping up. And if you're interested in starting a new APA, please feel free to send me an email at WAM as in mom, B as in boy, UIG at AmericanPromise.net. That's WAMBUIG at AmericanPromise.net. And I want to start off this call by sharing a quote from former President Barack Obama. And he said, "The strongest democracies flourish from frequent and lively debate, but they endure when people of every background and belief find a way to set aside smaller differences in service of a greater purpose." And I want to repeat that just one more time. The strongest democracies flourish from frequent and lively debate, but they endure when people of every background and belief find a way to set aside smaller differences in service of a greater purpose. And I think that that's something that we often have to remind ourselves in this cross-partisan work that we're engaged in. We may have differences, but we come together on these calls and in our work in our APAs to work on this issue of the 28th Amendment, because money in politics is a problem that affects every single one of us. And that's also why I've been so inspired by all the new APAs starting up and engaging in their communities. They're setting aside smaller differences to rally around a problem that is much larger than any single party affiliation to pass the 28th Amendment, to ensure that people, not money, not special interests, not corporations, govern. And this is the type of action and mindset that will really cause the big breakthroughs the 28th Amendment movement is happening, and it's happening all across the country. So thank you to everyone who's on the call and has started an APA or is in the process of currently starting one. I'm now going to kick it over to Jeff Clements, founder and president of American Promise, to say hello and introduce the fantastic guest speaker you have with us today. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, well, boy, how are you?
I'm great. How
Thanks,
are you?
everybody. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for joining us on this call, which we do each second Saturday of the month. And we are privileged and delighted indeed to have Senator Nina Turner join us today on this call to share her thoughts about our historic campaign to win the 28th Amendment and our work together as Americans to do that. And let me give a little bit of background. Many of you, of course, know Senator Turner, who was well known in Ohio, where she was a leader in the state Senate, and in Cleveland, where she served on the city council, and then came to national attention as a leader in the historic campaign for President of Bernie Sanders. And she now serves as president of Our Revolution, an organization that Bernie Sanders created to revitalize American democracy, empower progressive leaders, and elevate political consciousness to govern ourselves in service to the people. So when Senator Turner served in the Ohio Senate, she was well known as a fierce advocate, but also getting recognition and praise from elected leaders across the political spectrum. She demonstrated an uncanny ability, an inspiring ability to unify opposing viewpoints and challenge political leaders to live up to their highest selves and to serve the people first, not party or self. And her experience as an elected member of the Cleveland City Council, a strategic leader in the Ohio Democratic Party, all have afforded her a unique understanding of the government process, how to overcome partisan perspectives and actually move the country forward. Outside of the political arena, Senator Turner has decades of experience as a motivational speaker, a college professor, comes from a family of service, is a champion for the 28th Amendment, and a member of the American Promise Advisory Council. And for those of you who were at our first National Citizen Leadership Conference in October, you'll recall her electrifying call to action and speech. You can see the video of that on our website. And we are so delighted, Senator Turner, that you'll be joining us again at our second National Citizen Leadership Conference in June. So before I turn it over to you, Senator Turner, let me just give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of people on this call. In recent months, we heard from Dan Coy, who is leading our American Promise Association in Naperville, Illinois, and recently launched APA, and has been presenting to other groups, showing how the money domination of our political system is affecting so many other issues. The month before that, we heard from an American Promise leader in St. Paul, Minnesota, Vicki Barnes, who shared her experience of sitting down with a Republican member of Congress, Eric Paulson, to talk about common shared interests of getting money out of politics and how the 28th Amendment can help with that. So Dan and Vicki are kind of the inspiring citizen leaders on this call, and we are so grateful to you, Senator Turner, for joining us today. And so remember, we'll have a chance, everybody, to ask questions of Senator Turner, moderated by Waboy again. And so as Senator Turner is speaking, be thinking about any question you'd like to ask. And so without further delay, welcome, Senator Nina Turner. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you just so much, and to the American Promise team, just thank everybody and everybody that's joining us on a Saturday. This work is so vitally important, and I feel in many ways we are preaching to the choir, but the choir needs to be reaffirmed because we are the ones that will get out here state by state and really do this work. And if we are able to or ever hope to restore America's promise, it is rooted in the fact that campaign finance reform has to be at the top of our list, and doing away with Citizens United is very crucial in that. And, just kind of when I think about this environment, even people that I support, and it does mean the higher up you go, especially the larger the race, the bigger the office, the more money that people need to run, that in effect we really are, if we think about this in a very deep way and not just a superficial way, we really are pricing certain people out from even being able to compete, even being able to run for certain offices, because the amounts of money are so enormous. And the impact that people in this country have, not because of their voice, not because that we are all treated equal. We say that, and I know that that is a fundamental belief in the American system itself, but operationally, from an operational standpoint, it really just is not true. That unfortunately in the 21st century, those folks who have more money have more voice. The people who have more money or can leverage more money are also the ones who can compete in a deeper way for many of the political offices in today's America. And that goes for state level and also the federal government in particular, but not exclusively. And so that is why I am so proud of the work at American Promise and proud of all of you to join this call, that we need to ensure through our actions that we do not allow on our watch our United States of America to become an oligarchy. And that's even people we respect, even people who we want to see elected to office. If the leveraging point is money and solely money, or 90% money, or even 85% money, I think that is wrong. So this is not just about individual candidates. This is about who we are as Americans and whether or not we're going to get back to ensuring that this democracy flourishes and that it is open for all, and that all really does mean all, and that social economic background has no bearing on whether or not you can run and compete. And one of the best ways for us to do that, to make sure that we take away the rapid concentration of money into the hands of a few billionaires and global corporations. And this is not hate against them. This is, we must make sure that we level the playing field. Do they have a right to have voice? Yes, but their voice should not be outweighed from Ms. Jones that lives down the street just because they have more money. So to make sure that we get the 28th Amendment to the Constitution is so important, not just for us in our time, but it is important for future generations. It is important to the restoration of our democracy. It is important to make sure that we affirm that everybody in this country is absolutely equal, and that in the political space, the whole notion of one woman, one man, one vote is there, and the whole notion that money is not speech has to be affirmed through our actions. And if we don't do this, every other thing that we are fighting for in this country is in peril.
Thank
Excellent.
you, Senator Turner. So inspiring and call to action. Well, boy, let me turn it back to you. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Jeff, and thank you, Senator Turner. I'm feeling so fired up and excited about this work that we're doing. And I want to open it up for some questions if people have questions. So if you have a question, please hit the number 1 on your keypad, and my colleague Brian will let you know who to call on. So Brian, has anybody raised their hand?
There are a few people. Let's go with Carrie Corey.
Yes,
You
hi.
are unmuted, Carrie.
Hi there. I'm new to American Promise. I'm a volunteer team leader here in Stockton for Our Revolution. And I know that we've been actually supporting candidates that keep big money out of politics. But I'm wondering, what exactly is American Promise? Is it just asking our candidates to not take corporate money or super PAC money, or is it actually working towards getting say, resolutions across the country, like, say, example, Wolfpack has been doing, because I've been working with them. So I'm wondering, what's the difference between American Promise and a group like Wolfpack that's trying to get a 28th Amendment through a state's convention?
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope Jeff will jump in and tag team with me. But for American Promise, I mean, our goal is to have the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, which will limit the concentration of money in elections and, in the whole, pay to play environment that we have right now, in a system that concentrates all of the power and all of the money with just a few people, a few corporations, and a few individuals, and the whole notion that money absolutely is not speech. And so the people who have the most money should not have the most speech, but that is the reality in America today. And so, Jeff, I want to turn that back over to you, though, to kind of add to what I was saying.
Sure. Thanks, Senator, and thanks for the question. We are absolutely focused on winning the 28th Amendment, and we work with everyone, whatever group people are involved in, whatever political party they believe in. We work with them if they're working for the constitutional amendment to get big money out of politics. to return a government that is responsive to the people, not just corporations and concentrated money. So we have worked with Wolfpack. They were at our conference, our national conference, as is Common Cause and virtually all of the different organizations working for this amendment. We brought them all together for a conference. But what our model of how we're going to win this is we think of American Promise as really trying to serve you. So you let us know what works in where you live to help move the 28th Amendment forward. So that means we have a 50-state strategy with many different things all across the country, and you can see more at AmericanPromise.net under Take Action. But we're helping citizens do ballot initiatives in Wyoming and Massachusetts, and they're trying to get signatures in Florida to get it moving there. We're helping in 30 states get resolutions where, in addition to the 19 states that have already been done, we're helping with local resolutions. And we're helping citizen leaders, people like all of you on this call, and thousands in every state across the country, join together, connect together through these American Promise associations that WBOI and AZER and others at American Promise will be happy to work with you to help form one in your community. So yes, absolutely. We have a candidate pledge. We want people to ask their candidates where they stand and on this amendment. And we want those who are supporting the amendment to be representing the people. But we have many other things we all can do to help move this amendment forward. So thanks for the question.
Great. Brian, does anybody else have their hand raised?
Let's go with Connie Grubb. You're now unmuted.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, I couldn't remember I unmuted my phone. I kind of have a laundry list of things here. First of all, I wanted to just express a little bit of concern about Wolfpack and the Constitutional Convention, which is the way that they're angling for the 28th Amendment. I worry that opening up a con, especially with the makeup of our state legislatures right now and Congress and Senate, that we're really opening a can of worms and looking for our Constitution to be eviscerated. So, I really encourage us to go through Congress. But that being said, so what can we offer candidates in lieu of money? Because I know pooling our money and our resources is great, but we struggled with that as a local group. We wanted to ask our candidates not to take any money from PACs, but we also know that not all PACs are bad. There are some, whether community organization PACs in our local area. But, we need to be able to offer them something instead. So with that in mind, what can we learn from some of the groups that were more successful? I'm kind of thinking of Our Revolution Massachusetts. I know Colorado had a lot of success. Virginia had a lot of success. And I'd just like to know what tools are in place so that we can learn from each other what works, what doesn't work in our areas.
Yeah, well, thank you for that very good question. And again, Jeff, whenever you want to jump in, just jump in. We're tag teaming this today. I will tell you that you're absolutely right. All PACs are not bad, so we do have to keep that in mind. And maybe as we are asking our candidates to take these kinds of pledges, that we have some understanding that there may be PACs that are socially conscious, because that's really what this is about, is having a socially conscious way of candidates being able to raise money and compete. So people do have to compete. You don't need all the money, but you definitely do need money for the mission. And not all money is bad money, so that is absolutely true. Secondly, in terms of what else can folks do, we can help our candidates raise smaller dollar donations from more people. And what that does, particularly, and as the president of Our Revolution, I see this so deeply, what that does for somebody who's running for school board or city council, or even for the state legislature for that matter, when people are given money like that, mainly that money is coming from the state and from the community that they're running in, and that also helps them to connect with the people that they want to serve, but also, get out there. Or what I want to say is that those people who usually give that smaller dollar donation are also the people who are going to vote for them if they live in their district and can, or make a phone call for them. So for Our Revolution, before we give an endorsement, that endorsement has to come through a local affiliate, and that local affiliate has to tell us why they believe that this candidate is the one, and then what will they do for this candidate. So how many doors will you knock? How many phone calls will you make? how many envelopes will you lick, or, how often will you be out on social media for your candidate? So those are all things that we can do to complement lower dollar donations. So I like to say it's time and it's treasure and it's talent. If we take those three areas and dedicate that to a candidate of our choice and multiply that by bringing more people to bring their time, talent, and treasure, that helps that candidate be able to win. And that is what our Revolution affiliates have done all across this country, and some of our larger, more stronger affiliates, like in Massachusetts, that's exactly what they did to help their candidates win. So time, talent, and treasure.
Senator, I would echo that and just add, I think that's exactly right. And we have a candidate pledge. It's about advancing the 28th Amendment. Now, we know candidates also need to raise money, and we hope they do so through small dollar donations, and that can be very effective, as has been proven and as has been demonstrated by several great candidates. And it happens on both sides of the spectrum. I want to emphasize that. We had John Pudner on our call a couple of weeks ago, or last month, and he, as a conservative, managed the campaign that Dave Bratt ran as a primary in the Republican Party, and with far less money defeated Eric Cantor, the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives in the Virginia election. And it was done with a lot of small dollar donations and a lot of fired up, energized, in that case, conservatives. So, we try to model it at American Promise too. It's a membership organization. Our average contribution of the members is $21, and we have a maximum of $100 a month, or $1,200 total, because we want to model that kind of democracy. So I think if we are modeling right now in how we do politics and do our work within the 28th Amendment, it's about everybody pitching in. Everybody needs to pitch in a little bit, but that'll add up, and everybody needs to pitch in not only as the treasure, as Senator Turner said, but also the time. So we have 700 volunteers on the ground in Massachusetts. We have hundreds in Wyoming where they're doing ballot initiatives, and it can be both rewarding but also a very effective strategy. And remember, if you want to have questions for Senator Turner, you just press 1 on your keypad to raise your hand. Sorry, Senator, you were going to say?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I wanted to add, I know Connie had asked about the Wolfpack and the Constitutional Convention. And so, when we are allied groups, we may have, different ways of getting to the same end. And so it is definitely worth talking to, especially we all know that the majority of the legislatures in this country are controlled, by Republicans. And as just said, this is an omnipartisan. I mean, we don't, this is not about partisanship for American Promise. But if there is some concern, about whether or not that Constitutional Convention will, whether or not people will vote in favor of, creating the 28th Amendment. I think that is a fair concern, but we should not let that fear, stop us from doing what we think is necessary, and or just collaborating with people who may see us getting at or to the 28th Amendment in a different way. But what we do at American Promise is we bring in all of the this is not about party, this is about the principle. And so if we can get more people across, the aisle, across the political spectrum to say that we are, I am a Democrat, I am an independent, I am a Green Party, I am a Republican, but I believe that money is not speech, and money should not overshadow everyday people with speech. We will come to a solution collectively and together, and the only way we're going to get the 28th Amendment is not through a partisan lens. It is going to have to be an omnipartisan fight, or an omnipartisan way of getting to this. And so we can't lose hope that we will be able to do that, because at American Promise we do have our allies, and every ally is not a Democrat. We do this in a very omnipartisan way, and I think that can happen across this country. It is happening across this country. As Jeff said, we 19 states so far, and we're going to turn it up in 2018.
Great. If someone else has a question, please press the number 1 on your keypad. Brian, has somebody raised their hand?
Yeah. Let's go with Mel Poindexter. You're now unmuted.
Yes. Good afternoon, Senator Turner, from Massachusetts.
Good afternoon.
Quick question. Now, Massachusetts is presently has had some experience with a theoretical clean elections initiative, and the 28th Amendment falls in line with that. You kind of touched two callers before touched on something where they said, what is the counter offer? Because as we both know, money drives politics, and candidates are more prone to support the effort of someone who's sending them the check than, in many cases, the person who's actually casting the vote. So I guess what the question would be is, what do you offer as we're getting the signature? You also have to make some kind of offer to them as to these are some options that you can go with. I know small dollars was one thing, which is good, but when there are some good PACs, so is there a way that you can identify those good PACs as a package deal as you're getting the signature and the support to say, hey, well, here's some options that you can go with that have been checked out by the group that meets our approval?
I think we could. I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, certainly, from an American Promise lens, I'm not so sure if we've ever done that. I'll let Jeff speak to that. And then in my lens, wearing my hat as the president of our revolution, we've certainly never done that, but that's food for thought. That maybe we do offer a list. Now, the only thing is that we cannot guarantee whether or not said good PAC, will in fact donate to candidate A or B. We couldn't guarantee that donation, but maybe to point them in the right direction is good. And we are, this is an idea whose time has come, though. I just want everybody to know that. I know we are going up a mountain. There is no doubt about it, But we are seeing in everyday communities this change that people are winning by getting those small dollar donations, and not just the small dollar donations. I would also contend that it is also the time that the people put into the campaign of our folks while progressives are winning across the spectrum. And you see this awakening in the American electorate, which is why, American Promise, that's why we're fighting so hard, because I really do believe that this is the moment and that people from all ideologies are fed up with money being the vehicle of speech. So that's why I said time, talent, and treasure. It is all three of those things that we must utilize to help candidates. And at some point in this country would love to see, the public financing of elections. I mean, that's something else that kind of goes, none of this is not just the 28th Amendment itself. I mean, that's what we're fighting for, but there are a whole host of other issues that complement the 28th Amendment and the type of political environment that we're trying to create so that politicians are not feeling as though they need to answer to their donors. I mean, just on MSNBC this week, it was a multimillionaire on MSNBC, and I'm just using this by way of example, saying that he told Senator Schumer and Leader Pelosi that they got to knock it off. They got to tell Democrats to knock it off and don't talk against billionaires and millionaires and don't go left. And I'm just using that as just one example. He said this on national TV. And then he said, I will cut you off. I'm going to cut you off if you don't do what I say do. So that's just one example of many people who probably feel that same way, to your point, that if I give you money, you must do what I say. And the only way we're going to fight back against that is the work to get the 28th Amendment. But along the way, candidate after candidate after candidate taking that pledge and showing that they can win the race without having to answer to one or two billionaires or millionaires. Instead, answer to the people that you are running to serve. It is hard, but people are doing it all across this country. People are doing it all across the political spectrum. And the biggest example that I have right now is what Senator Bernie Sanders was able to do while running for president for the very first time. People thought he was crazy when he said he was not going to accept big dollar donations. At the same time, he was testing out a run. I mean, so he ran for president for the very first time and tested out this small dollar donation. And look what happened. People responded. So I believe that is the same. That environment is still true right now in 2017. It was true. He showed that it could be done in 16. It was true in 17. And I believe it is still true in 2018. And if we keep rowing in this direction, if we keep pushing in this election, we will see a paradigm shift in this country where small dollar donations will be the rule and not the exception.
Absolutely. And that is a future that I cannot wait to see. I think we have time for one more question. Brian, has anybody hit the number 1 on their keypad ready for a question?
Yep, let's go with Robert Hunziker.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yep.
Yes.
Hi. So my advice is actually on the other side of that coin. I am actually a candidate running for Congress here in Washington State, and as somebody who's pledged to take no large money donations or PAC money, I've even been endorsed by PACs but not taking their money. What is your advice to getting and competing? Because I'm competing in a race with 8 other people who are taking that money, and they're obviously outracing me by leaps and bounds, and it's been rough just getting the message out without the money to start to get the message out.
So you've been endorsed. I guess I'm trying to understand the environment. So you're saying that you are running strictly with small dollar donations?
I am, yes.
And you're being outraised by your competition in the race, obviously.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, and I won't joke because I feel like I've been monopolizing the whole time, but part of it is, first of all, you got to get more of those donations, obviously, and you have to also build a synergy among the people who are supporting you so that you can multiply your people. So in some ways, the people are the money too. I mean, the time that they put in, I should say, the time that they put in to your campaign, that's worth money as well. So as you are finding it harder on the donation side because you are running a race where you say that you're not going to take large dollar donations, and I hope I'm unclear about whether or not you would take socially conscious PAC money. I throw that out there, but that should be something that you consider. But you got to increase your people power then to accommodate for the lack of money on the one hand.
Okay.
And then seek endorsements from organizations that are aligned with your ideology and your campaign and the type of public servant, elected official you want to be, and then they can help you multiply your people power too, and also your small dollar donations as well. So that's organizations like Democracy for America, Move On, Our Revolution, organizations like that, whereby if they endorse you, then they got some muscle that they can help your campaign with in terms of people, and then also soliciting for more small dollar donations.
Senator, could I add something to that as well?
Oh, please! Oh no!
Yeah,
please.
And you're welcome to monopolize it because you're our special guest, and we're so glad to have you here. So you take all the floor that you want. But Robert, I want to both first thank you for jumping into the arena and serving. It's what we need citizen leaders to do. But I also wanted to add, I know you're in the 8th District in Washington, and Washington State in 2016 passed, thanks to the hard work of many people, some on this call perhaps, in WAMEND and Fix Democracy First, a call by the state of Washington, the people of Washington, for the 28th Amendment. And as you probably know, it passed in every single congressional district, including the 8th. Didn't matter if it was Republican or Democrat. And we have a pledge on our page, AmericanPromise.net, under Take Action. Look for Candidate Pledge. And it may be, I hope it would be an advantage for you to sign the pledge and challenge the other candidates in the race to sign the pledge and say, I'm standing with the people of Washington who voted for this 28th Amendment, and I pledge to help enforce it when I go to Congress and work across partisan lines and do whatever it takes to get the 28th Amendment that the people have asked for. And I think that we are hopeful at American Promise that the pledge will become a sort of force multiplier for candidates who are committed to representing the people, not money and big corporations. So I just wanted to add that tip. And for people on the call and around the country, the Candidate Pledge, we're asking folks to download it and ask candidates like Robert, who are trying to fight the good fight, to to sign the pledge and run on that issue as well. So just wanted to add that. And, I don't know if we have time for more questions. I'll turn it back to Waboy, but if not, I wanted to just say again thank you to Senator Turner for taking the time to be with us today. And back to you, Waboy.
Oh, thank
Great.
you. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And that was a great idea, too, Jeva. Just a great idea.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, we don't have time for any more questions right now, but maybe we will at the end of the call. But thanks, Jeff, and thank you so much, Senator Turner, for speaking with us about this really important work. I'm sure that we're all feeling a little bit more inspired and motivated to keep up with the fight. Now, before we get to our grassroots victory, I want to start off by shouting out some of the actions taken recently by our APA members. So last month, APA members had 4 meetings with their members of Congress or their staff for a total of 16 so far this year. And since last month's call, we've had 6 letters to the editors published for a total of 26 meetings so far. And that is just absolutely excellent work, and that is exactly the type of citizen empowerment that we really push at American Promise, to make sure that you are empowered to do this work. And we want to know about your meetings with your members of Congress or your letters to the editor when they're published, so that we can include them in our next month's total. So if you had a letter to the editor published, or a congressional meeting with a staffer or a congressperson themselves, please send us an email. Send me an email personally at wambuig@americanpromise.net. That's WAM as in mom, B as in boy, UIG @americanpromise.net. And now I am super excited to turn it over to Ishwari, who is a fantastic citizen leader in Santa Fe. Her group has been in serious action, and I'm thrilled that she's here to talk about it. And don't forget that the action this month is to get a candidate running for Congress to commit and sign the American Promise Candidate Pledge. And that's actually something that the Santa Fe group has been in action around. So Ishwari, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How's it going?
Fine, very good. Thank you. I'm so excited to have heard Senator Turner, and I thank you so much for what you said. I wrote down something that you said right at the beginning that just really inspires me, and it's why I do this work. You said, if we don't do this, every other thing we care about is in peril. And I just feel like it is such an umbrella to deal with election reform and financing. So, and also you just really inspire hope. So I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you.
I'm Ishwari Solahub. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm the vice president of an organization called New Mexicans for Money Out of Politics. We started about a year ago, and right now we have over 300 people interested and on our mailing list. So we're really growing. We're nonpartisan. We're grassroots. We're currently moving towards establishing our nonprofit legal entity, which is all kinds of fun and games. So I'll just tell you what our mission is. Our mission is to remove the corrupting influence of money in politics and make the government work for all the people of New Mexico and our country. It's very, very basic. We have 6 stated goals, one of which is to enact the 28th Amendment, overturning the effects of Citizens United. So I could say the other 6 goals, but I think I might hold off on that for the moment. But they do pertain to all of the other things that Senator Turner, that you talked about, that all have to happen, like gerrymandering and all these things that have to happen in order for us to get back our, democracy. So we've been working, NMMOP is how we call ourselves. We've been working closely with American Promise, and I'm delighted to be on this call. So thank you very much, Waboy and Jeff and everybody else. So we first heard about the candidate pledge at the beginning of August when it was first introduced by American Promise, and we really liked the idea and thought it sounded like a great action item to actually re-engage some of the volunteers we had that had kind of fallen away from our organizing work. Since we originally trained back in April, Ben Gubitz came out, and we had like 75 people at our initial training, and a lot of those people had sort of fallen off. So the committee wanted to get people back engaged, and this pledge seemed like a great way to do that. So we brought like I said, we have a 28th Amendment committee, which is part of our organization, New Mexico MOP. We brought the proposal to do the pledge with American Promise to our larger group, and of course we received approval to go forward with a pledge drive. And right away we started working with one of our U.S. Congresspeople, Representative Michelle Lujan Grisham. We've had a bit of an inroad with her and her staffers, and she's interesting right now because she's stepping down from Congress to run for governor in New Mexico in 2018. So she's kind of a two-faceted person. She's a candidate and an official, but she's an outspoken supporter of the idea of money out of politics. And as we all know right now, actually acting on that is, as the candidate from Washington said, is really challenging. So anyway, we talked to her staffer, and they were very, very positive. And one of the things they asked us is, who else has signed the pledge? So I got that information from American Promise, and I've been kind of using that. We've been using that because that's a really common question people ask when you ask them to sign a pledge. They say, well, okay, that sounds interesting. Who else has signed? So I think as we build the numbers, it's going to really help the movement to increase in its effectiveness. So we've have actually gotten a different gubernatorial candidate to sign the pledge. His name is Peter D. Benedictis. He's a very progressive Democrat here. Everybody calls him Peter D. He signed the pledge just immediately on seeing it. So it will be interesting to see where that goes and what impact it actually might have on our governor campaign here in New Mexico once we let Representative Lujan Grisham and her staff know that Peter D. has signed. I don't know if they're aware of that yet. But it could actually be, a rallying point to some degree in the gubernatorial race next year. So we met and strategized for, we've had a couple of meetings, and then in terms of the pledge drive, and one of our members has been very, very involved with another amendment, 28th Amendment group called Move to Amend. It's one of the, large national groups, and he suggested that we use their approach in terms of our pledge drive by sending out a blitz email introducing the pledge to like all of the legislators and candidates, just a large group of people, and asking them to sign, and then following up with personal visits, phone calls, and emails where we can, where we have, people on the ground. So we thought that was a great idea, and we decided to start with the state legislators, both houses, as well as Santa Fe City Council and Santa Fe County Commission. We didn't want to, cast the net too wide as we start. We decided to also include New Mexico candidates once the filing dates passed. So we're working on two levels, with elected officials and with candidates. And one of our members had a great idea of approaching sympathetic council members or county commissioners to consider leading the charge for local resolutions. Not only to sign the pledge, but to actually, say, well, the commission is going to have a resolution supporting the 28th Amendment. So in effect, like a whole commission would kind of support the pledge. So we wrote an email, kind of a lengthy email that basically is very, very similar to the Laser Talk that we've all been exposed to, that American Promise has kind of provided. And we thought we could send that out to all of the people, the large group. And originally we were going to do that. And then just this past Thursday we had a meeting where we actually started matching specific volunteers with certain elected officials and candidates. So this is kind of like exciting. We've been waiting for this moment where we actually have people who are going to call these people. We're finally to the point where we're taking action. And for me, that's just super exciting. And so each volunteer or group of volunteers has a packet consisting of the pledge and a few supporting items which help them to sort of talk about the issue with statistics and things like that. And they also will have, as I said before, an updated list of who has already signed the pledge. So then the volunteers are going to be reporting back to our committee. We have a system in place to sort of track their progress and support them. And we want to be organized and not have everybody, approaching the same people. So we want to sort of assign people so that one person isn't barraged while another person is not even getting contacted. So that's kind of where organization comes in. And, a side thing is that although the main objective of us doing this pledge is to get people to, or this drive, is to get officials and candidates to sign the pledge and to help make it a campaign issue, there's some really important side benefits, and that includes the relationships we're building each and every step with either staffers or elected officials or candidates. We're building relationship. We are building activists. We're actually, a lot of us are new to this, and we're gaining really great experiences that are empowering and help us to be hopeful and help us to sort of commit to keep working towards these goals. So there's a ton of positive takeaways in addition to the actual pledge, and we're just really happy to be jumping in. I think we're sort of on the leading edge of this right now because we've been kind of working on it for a couple of months, but it looks like American Promise is doing sort of the real launch right around now. So, we have, what happened on Thursday is instead of doing a great big blitz, we decided to take it slow. So we have 2 people working together on 2 state legislators. We have 2 other people working on 2 city councilors together, and then a small group working on Michelle Lujan Grisham, our representative and governor candidate, and then another person working on a couple county commissioners. So that's what we've got on the ground right now, and I think we're going to do like a little mini blitz, sending that email to like maybe a dozen or so legislators and kind of see what happens. So we want to take a few people on at a time, work really hard at following up and tracking, and hopefully learn, from these early encounters, and then maybe bring that learning back and get better at it. And then the other thing is when we talk to our elected officials or candidates, when we're asking them to sign the pledge, we're going to let them know that we will be publishing their name as signers of the pledge on our website, New Mexico MOP website, and then we're also going to be sending it to American Promise, of course. And I think American Promise, you're going to be putting it on your website soon too. And Sam Daly Harris encouraged me to ask our group to also include our signers' names in letters to the editor. So, it's a wild ride, and we're looking forward to the journey.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ishwari. And thank you for the phenomenal work that you and your group are doing. And as Ishwari has mentioned, the Candidate Pledge is an incredibly powerful tool, and I'm so impressed by the strategic and really organized work that you and your team has been doing to distribute the pledge so that your entire community knows where their political candidates stand on this really crucial issue. And like you had quoted before from Senator Turner, if they don't care about this, then a lot of things that we care about collectively are in peril. So I'm now going to kick it over to Azer Cole, who is the Other Citizen Empowerment Coordinator, to talk a little bit more about the Candidate Pledge and how people can use it effectively. What's up, Azer?
Hey, well, boy, thanks for introducing me, and thank you, Ishwari, for sharing the great work you and your group are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support.
Of course, happy to do it. So as everyone knows, the action this month is focused on generating support for the Candidate Pledge. Elected officials don't create political will. They respond to it, and it's up to us to encourage candidates, both those in office and those running, to announce their support of the 28th Amendment overturning Citizens United. And with the 2018 election just 1 year away, we'll begin this campaign by presenting the pledge to at least one congressional candidate, either by mail with a follow-up call or in a face-to-face meeting. The pledge is also a great opportunity to begin or continue a dialogue with elected officials on the 28th Amendment, and can be a great gateway, as Ishwari said, into developing productive relationships with our candidates for public office. So I've got this month's action sheet right in front of me, and I'm going to quickly walk us through it, and then ask a brave listener to do a role play with me where you'll play yourself a concerned citizen who's sent the candidate pledge in the mail to your elected official or candidate and is calling their office 5 or 7 days later to follow up because you haven't heard anything back, and I'll play your candidate's office in this scenario. So now I'll go through the action sheet quickly, and while I do, I hope someone's thinking of what they'll say in the role play. So on the action sheet, the first step details how Ballotpedia can be a useful tool for identifying all declared candidates for federal office. If, like Ishwari, you're working with a group, having this list can be a really great first step into divvying up outreach. The second step, once you've identified who you're going to reach out to, is making sure you're familiar with the pledge's text and are actually able to share a personal story showing why this issue matters to you. So once you've done this, it's time to actually mail the candidate's pledge to your candidate. Always include a handwritten letter asking them to sign the pledge, send it back to you, and to begin a deeper dialogue into how they might use their office to advance the 28th Amendment. So now you've sent the pledge, it's been about a week or so, and you haven't heard anything back. It's time to follow up with a call. So I'm going to ask a brave volunteer to do a role play with me, where you're following up with your candidate's office, ask if the candidate has indeed received the pledge. I'll be the candidate's office here. So if you could press 2 on your keypad, if you're up for doing this role play, I'll be sure to thank you for letting everyone else off the hook. This will be a really fantastic service for everyone here on the call. And it may be that I've signed the pledge and have just sent it back in the mail, to which you'd say thank you. It also might be that I haven't signed the pledge, in which case you'll tell me a little bit more about it and ask if there's a time I'm free to meet with you to discuss this in person. So Brian, has anyone pressed 2 on their keypad? Do we have any brave volunteers willing to do this role play with me?
You do, in fact. So I'm going to unmute. Just 1 second. Jackie DeBose. Jackie, you're unmuted.
Jackie, thanks so much for volunteering. Jackie, hello there. Thanks, and I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say you're everyone's new best friend. Thanks for stepping up. Can you just let everyone know where you're calling in from, and just tell me in 1 sentence something about your candidate who you plan on reaching out to?
I live in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and the person I want to reach out to is someone that, should I give you the real person or should it be a hypothetical person?
Totally up to you.
Okay. The person I'm reaching out to is Nan Whaley, who's planning on running for governor.
All right. Sounds good. And you said their last name is Whaley?
Whaley, yeah, W-H-A-L-E-Y.
All right, great. You are calling gubernatorial candidate Whaley's office. Ring, 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 ring. Hello, candidate Whaley's office.
Hello, candidate. Is this Nan? I'm Jackie DeBose, and I'm
Jackie, this is actually his office secretary. What are you calling about?
I'm calling about letting her know that there are some women in my community who have been reading material about her, and they want to somehow organize and do several events and have her meet people in our community.
Great. Have you sent anything to us in the mail?
We sent an interest card, and we haven't gotten anything back as of yet. We sent it about 7 days ago.
Okay, you know what? I've actually got that on my desk here, and I just want to thank you for that handwritten letter you attached with it. That's something a lot of people don't do, and it stuck out to me, and I've been meaning to, get back in contact with you. I can pass this on to the candidate Whaley, and I'm sure they'd be happy to look at it. Would that be okay?
Yes. What we want to do is see if we can develop some dates on her calendar when she's in our area. So, maybe 3 or 4 dates, and we'll target people in different communities that are near us, so that she can begin to meet women in our community. And
all
we
right,
don't want
Stephanie, I'm gonna pop us out of this role play right now, Stephanie. You are doing absolutely perfect. Likely the answer you'll receive is something like, you know what, I'll look at it, or I haven't had a chance to look at it. And what you did, which is fantastic, and the exact thing to do, is say, are there a couple dates? I'm glad you're going to look at it, but it'd be even better for us to meet face-to-face and start a dialogue and start a relationship. So you absolutely knocked it out of the park. How did you feel going through that scenario? Was there anything that you thought you did exceptionally well, or if you were doing this again, something you would have done differently?
Well, you know what, I've done this before, and I call it like almost cold calling. And let me try. I think what impresses me most is when someone doesn't start off by saying, well, I don't have the calendar. The calendar's already full. I'm pretty sure it's already full. We've already worked your area. It's just like a nice put off. Call it a velvet hammer put off.
Yeah, I could tell that this was not your first time doing something like this.
It's not my
Great.
first time.
Well,
it's hard every time.
It sort of is. Yeah, it's and I'd say it's particularly hard the first time when we're meant to think that interacting with our elected officials or our candidates for public office is something sort of out of our ability to do. And a big part of the work for the 28th Amendment is reminding ourselves that we're citizens, and in a working democracy, engaging civically, like by doing things like calling our candidates and asking them about where they stand on issues, and to engage in the community is sort of our responsibility as citizens in a working democracy. So I just want to thank you again, Stephanie, so much for volunteering to do this role play, really stepping up and leading by example. And I'm going to kick it back to Waboy to finish up the call and take us home here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being so brave, and that was really awesome. I feel like I learned something as well. And thank you, Azer, for running us through that candidate pledge. And before we hop off, I just want to review the next steps and how you can get more involved with American Promise. So first and foremost, following our action, please stay after the call and use this call to talk about the candidate pledge and how you're going to implement it in your community. It's really important that you strategize and, again, contact one of us, either me or Azer, my colleague, on how we can help you empower yourself and make your community a champion for the 28th Amendment and getting big money out of politics. And the second thing is to, of course, start an American Promise Association right in your community by filling out a short form, and we'll send you an email and call you by Monday. And you'll let us know how you want to get involved. So be sure to email me at wambuyg@americanpromise.net. I've said my email about, I think, 4 times on the call now, so I'm sure you all know it. But keep that in mind so that you can let us know how you want to get more involved. And lastly, be sure to RSVP for the next call scheduled for Saturday, December 9th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's going to be the last call of 2017. So we want to make sure we leave off this year on a bang. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to feel inspired and ready to do the good work that we need to do. And to end this call, I want to say just a short quote attributed to Anonymous. And they said, "Be outrageous, because it's the only place that isn't crowded. Be outrageous in this movement, and together we will win. We'll win our democracy, and it's going to be great, and we're going to celebrate this victory together." have a fantastic weekend, and again, happy Veterans Day to our servicemen and women. And thank you for joining us on this Saturday. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, LaBoy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.